Hello everyone and welcome to Season 8 of the Eiffel Tower. What happened to Season 7? What happened to Season 7? Last I heard, you're up to Episode 11 on the 11th arrondissement with David Leibovitz. That's probably what you're thinking. But in case you've been living under some kind of a rock lately, there has been this terrible coronavirus spreading around the whole world. France, and especially Paris, has been particularly affected, and essentially it's changed life for everybody here. It's a historic time. You're meant to say an historic time, but I think that's ridiculous. It's a historic time for Paris, and my journalistic instincts kicked in, and I figured it'd be more interesting, better, more informative, and maybe even more entertaining if I switched up the Eiffel Tower for a while, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, and instead took you inside Paris while it's on lockdown. This is a really interesting time, so that's what you're going to be hearing for a while. The idea is that I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on, sticking to the facts. None of this fear-mongering or spreading incorrect news that I see some other people are doing inadvertently, or, well, who knows what's going on there, but just sticking to what Paris is like on lockdown while talking to some people via telephone, of course. I'll talk about that in a second. Talk to them about what life is like for them, and hopefully provide a little glimmer or a shimmer of entertainment in your life wherever you are, especially to the people who this episode is dedicated to the people who had trips planned to Paris and couldn't make it because of all these travel restrictions. So this one goes out to you guys and all you other people dreaming of Paris. It's still a beautiful city, it's still an interesting city, and I'm still going to be talking about it. So I'm going to spend this first episode of Season 8 telling you what you can expect from the upcoming episodes. No guest, just me. Here we go. That was the intro music from local band Slim and the Beast, the first guests on this show, and the song was Go For A Ride. You also hear it at the end of the Eiffel Tower. A little bit of fun trivia for you there. Now listen, I'm sitting at home, I'm not recording in the studio, and there's a huge reason for that. The studio is being closed off to us, as has almost everything else in France. The country's on lockdown. I want to explain to you exactly what that means. Firstly, all the restaurants and bars and all those kind of places where people gather, they've all been closed. It's not an option to go to them, they've been closed down. The government said that all these places are going to be they're going to get money. They're not going to go bankrupt. In fact, President Macron insisted that no one's going to go bankrupt out of this. But I'll be talking to some cafe owners, restaurant owners, some friends of the show whose voices you heard in past weeks, months, and years on the Eiffel Tower. I'm going to be talking to them about how it's affecting them, what's going on in the coming episodes. But what does this lockdown mean? I use the word lockdown. Some people might say, that's not a lockdown. I beg to differ. We were told yesterday night that we're not allowed to leave the house at all unless it's for a very good reason. Those very good reasons are you're going to buy food from the supermarkets, which remain open. You're going to the pharmacy or the doctor or the hospital, which remain open. Incidentally, the boulangeries, the bakeries remain open too, which says a lot about France. So they're the three places you can go, or if you're doing private personal exercise. So if you're going for a run, or I suppose a quick walk, if you're loitering around, you're going to get in trouble. If police come up to you, they'll say, do you have your papers? These papers, we've all been sent them via text messages. They read something along the lines of, I swear on my honor that I am going to the shops to buy food at 2 o'clock on this date. And if you're caught without those papers or without a good reason, you can be slapped with a 38 euro fine, perhaps soon to go up to, I think it was 130 euros. So they're taking it pretty seriously. And the result of this is Paris is empty. You guys at home that follow me on social media will have seen over the past year I've been living on the top floor of a apartment in Montmartre. So I can see the road, I can see down to Pigalle, I can see up to Montmartre, both ways. The road is empty, no one walking, no cars. I can hear birds that I never thought that I'd heard before. At least I didn't think they lived around here. It's pretty cool. But just mostly you can hear nothing, which is pretty crazy for a city. It's funny because I did an episode, a blog post recently about the sounds of Paris, sirens, people talking, all these kind of things, the restaurant chitter-chatter, all gone. Very strange times indeed. So that is what's happening in Paris. And I just figured one thing I don't talk about on this show very much is my background. And it's something that I guess I'm going to have to start talking about eventually, because it's a large part of my memoir that's coming out pretty much as we speak. Is I used to be a journalist, and I came to Paris over 5 years ago to cover the news. And I mean like the proper news, not like travel stories and stuff like that. I came down to Paris to cover the terror attacks on the Charlie Hebdo newspaper, if you can remember that, in January of 2015. It was a really trying time for Paris, not least because in November that same year there was the much bigger terror attack, and those stories really, covering those stories was all we did in those days, and it was a really trying time for France, and it's something I'm seeing again now, a sort of difficult testing time where people are being challenged. Life is changing, this time very dramatically with this coronavirus. And like I said at the start of this episode, these kind of journalistic instincts have kicked in a little bit, and I figured it would be an interesting, if nothing else, it would be interesting to have an account of what's going on in the city. So with that in mind, let me just catch everybody up to speed. This is going to be an episode just with me talking to you guys. In the coming episodes, there'll be other people. There'll be my wife, Lena, all the people who've been on the show before. And in fact, I'm quite happy to take tips or recommendations from you guys at home, or if you think you should be on the show. But let me rewind to how this started affecting me. First, when the news came out that everything was happening in China and then Italy, I got a lot of emails from Eiffel Tower listeners, and the typical one said, "Hey, I've got a flight booked for this time, should I come?" And when I get those kind of emails, I never really give tips to people. I don't think it's my position to do it, but I let them know the situation. And I was telling everyone life's normal. Everything is exactly the same for me. Nothing's changed. And over time, things started changing really slightly. So, for example, I play a lot of basketball, and the guys that organized the basketball competition, they called it off and they canceled games for a month. And that was the first time it physically affected me. So it was the first time I thought, okay, well, something's happening here. And then after that, a lot of times when people come into town, they want to meet up with me, or they want to take a walking tour with me or something like that. All those people email to say that they're not coming and they're cancelling. Then I started talking to friends of the show, coffee shop owners, tour guides, and they said they're seeing exceptional cancellation rates. And then after that was when the president said to the country, guys, we got to rein it in, stop going out, stop socializing, start some self-distancing. And then you probably saw it on the news, no one really did anything differently. So he closed down pretty much everything. And then the next step was to bring in this lockdown. And that's where we are today. Day one of the lockdown, it started at midday today. A few people were out in the morning running errands or doing whatever they could do before they had to start filling out these forms. And that's where we're at right now. So, like I said, I think it's a really interesting time to be in Paris. I'm super curious to see if we have the same kind of camaraderie that I've been seeing in Italy. I've been seeing people singing on the balconies and applause for the care workers. I heard rumors that maybe at 8 o'clock tonight they'll be clapping from the balconies. So if that happens, this is exactly where I'm going to insert it. The other thing is, it's going to be really interesting to see how a lot of people in the city can put up with being in lockdown. Remember, in Paris, a very big way of life is the cafe culture, socializing, restaurants. People like me and my wife, we live in a very small apartment. If you're listening in America or Australia, you wouldn't believe how little our apartment is. It's like 30 square meters, which, look, I'm going to look it up for you now. I'm sitting in front of a computer. 30 SQM in square feet. 323 square feet. That's how big my apartment is. We don't have an oven, so we're not going to be cooking very much. We don't have a garden. We're not going to be getting out very much. We have 2 very tiny balconies. That will be the limit of our fresh air. But look, I'm going to try and stay positive. I'm going to try and share the story with you and find the interesting people who can help me do that. But I think I'm going to wind it up today as just your first episode. I want to point you in the directions where I'll be sharing more stuff. I did a Facebook live video. Go and find me there. If you want to have conversations with me, ask me questions, do it during that. I'll probably do it on YouTube too. And I'll be putting out way more regular podcasts than I usually do. One of the reasons that I'll be doing this is because I got to spend 24/7 inside a 323 square foot apartment. And if I don't do something, I will very likely go crazy. So keep sending your kind words like I saw people were putting on Instagram. Keep doing that. That helps keep me motivated. And lastly, kind of exciting on the personal news front. Do you guys remember a couple months ago I did a Kickstarter to launch my memoir, Paris on Air? The Kickstarter was successful. All you guys who bought the paperback, I've sent off your addresses to the printing factory and they're going to print them this week just in time. I wouldn't be surprised if the factory closed. So you'll probably get your book in the coming days. Now, the audio experience that I was working on in the studio, I've got a choice. I either do the second half of it on this microphone at home. I don't know if that will sound the same. Or we postpone it, or I try and get special permission to get into the studio. I don't know, that one's a bit tricky. But the ebook is in my hands. So I could even send that out earlier, but I kind of wanted to time it to go with the paperback. You could probably convince me. But there you go, that's all happening. If you haven't got a copy, you can still get it from my site. It is theeiffeltower.com/memoir. Could be some fun reading while you are quarantined as well. Hey, speaking of reading, don't forget I got the book club. The book club is a place where every month we talk about a book that's out. I'm going to send that into overdrive as well. I'm going to be reading a lot more books, talking about a lot more books. So check that out on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to essentially keep me alive at the moment, consider signing up on Patreon. Patreon.com/theearfultower. I'm quite prepared to see that people will stop supporting because they won't have trips coming up. But heart to heart here, now's not the time to stop supporting me because that is my salary and I've got no side hustles going on at the time. And if that goes down, well then I won't be putting anything in with my pastor. So think of me, guys, in this time. But listen, here's what I'm going to finish on, is when I did the Kickstarter, there was an option to put in a deluxe package where you got the audiobook, what did you get? The audio experience, I called it, the ebook and the book. And if you got all of them, I said that I could give you a shout out on the podcast. So here are a few. I'm going to just read through a couple in a row, starting from the bottom. So Ruth Fishbeck, hang on, she says, no shout out needed. Thanks for all the great information about Paris. Okay, that was easy. Judy Grubbs, she says, so this is Judy in Eugene. She says, Oliver, which museum is your favorite? Good question. I'd say the Louvre is the best museum, even though it's the busiest and it's the craziest. You have to go in there. If you want to go to a smaller one, Gustave Moreau, or I went to a really fun one for the first time the other day that was called Musée Bourdelle, Bourdelle. Look it up, check it out. That was really fun. It has a weird story in there. Someone was taking photographs of me and Lena. Long story. I'll share it for when Lena gets on on one of these podcast episodes. Let's see another one here. Lauren from New York begs for you to stop in New York City on your US tour and will buy you and Lena dinner if you go. That is exciting, and it also brings up something that's not so fun or exciting. Travel is so banned for people in Europe and coming to Europe and going from Europe, and I hate to say it, but it looks like the chances of my US book tour, which has got so much work has been put into it so far. Like, I'm not talking about just booking tickets and booking events, but goodness me, so much has gone into this and it's on the line. I'm not going to say it's cancelled just yet, but if we do come on this trip or a future one in New York, I'll take you up on that dinner offer, Lauren Doyle. Now, let's do two more before I get on it. Wendy in Stony Creek, Canada says, your amazing podcast has unleashed my inner Parisian self. I love it, Wendy. I don't know what that means, though. Does that mean you're on lockdown as well? Or who knows? I love it. No question. Straight on to the next one. Karen from Virginia recently learned that a volcanic eruption in Iceland in 1783 was linked to the French Revolution. How cool is science and history and podcast? Very cool, Karen. I love it. Love the enthusiasm. Let's keep going. I'm on fire. Mary from Blair Gowrie in Oz wants to say hi to Alex, Nico, and Sam in Paris. There you go. Sounds like a few friends of the show have a connection to someone in Blair Gowrie in Oz. So hello, Mary, and thanks for your support. Long-time support. Carolyn in Virginia just says hi. This is easy. Okay, we'll finish on this one. Mindy in Sacramento says, which cheese would you use to coax a bear down from a tree? Come on, bear. Sorry if that joke was a little cheesy. Hey-o! I think I pronounced that exactly perfect. For your joke to work, come on, bear. Come on, bear. Come on, bear, says Mindy in Sacramento. That'll do. That's it for now. You've been listening to The Eiffel Tower. I hope I've provided a little smile on your face. If so, tell your friends about it. Get people listening. Get an insight into Paris on lockdown. It is not an, it is a historic time, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. I'm going to stay positive, I'm going to have some cool guests, and I'm going to bring Paris to you, even if I can't really walk around Paris. So, thank you for listening, thanks for supporting, and I'll see you soon with another update. Ciao for now.